Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. My guest today is Gert Mellak. Gert is the founder of SEO Leverage, a team of 30 people that helps businesses grow through search engine optimization. He has been doing SEO for nearly 20 years, which is almost as long as SEO has been a thing. He is also the author of the Erica Framework, your answer to the toughest SEO challenges, which outlines the formula for achieving a high SEO return on investment. They've generated 10 million plus clicks in organic traffic, thousands of leads, and millions of dollars in sales for 500 or more solopreneurs, coaches, online marketers, and international corporations simply by applying the latest SEO strategies and tactics. This is going to be a great conversation today. I love nerding out on SEO simply because the landscape has changed so much and continues to change even to this day. So I'm really curious to see what's new and exciting. Gert, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the show.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much for this intro. Really, really nice to hear all this. It's definitely been quite a trip. SEO, as you say, has changed. But I'm looking forward to nerding out a little bit about search engine optimization. And maybe we can share a few battle stories.
I love it. I love it. So do me a favor. Let's talk a little bit about your background. You and I have been doing this for about the same time, the same amount of time, I should say. And what's interesting about it is that there have been a lot of changes. Like the things that we did 20 years ago is not the same thing we did 19 years ago. And certainly not the same thing that we're doing today. The landscape has changed. The technology has changed. The devices that we interact with it has changed. And it is just going in some new and exciting directions, while some main key concepts have remained constant and remained relevant from what we were doing way back when all the way through today. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what makes you so amazing.
Not sure what makes me amazing, but I'm from Austria. This is probably part of what makes me amazing. Austria, based in Madrid, in Spain. I come from a technical background, so I'm a web developer by trade, so to speak. I was doing web programming every single day of my life over more than 15 years. And this now really comes in handy because when you have this technical background, a lot of things just make sense that Google does. So very often you can assess a little bit where this might be going, what might be some reasons, what might be really the effect of some quick actions Google is taking, and where you expect things to go. So it's interesting that you bring this up. I had to smile because my first SEO, if this was probably called SEO back then, I remember we put some white text on white background to sneak in a few keywords that Google would then adopt, and it was all just about traffic. Everybody was happy when traffic came in. Whereas today, it's really all about this individual user and this individual conversion we want to achieve, rather than getting huge amounts of useless traffic in, which ultimately only seem to be noise after all.
You know what's interesting about this entire journey, no matter who you read, there was so much noise out there when we're trying to level up, when we're trying to figure out what works or what is up and coming and how can we serve our clients in the best way possible. Google was actually giving us some really sage advice way back in the day. And basically they said, just if you're going to write something, write it for humans. Don't write it for spiders. Don't write it for search bots. Actually write this thing so that an actual human being can do it. So what does half the industry go and do? The exact opposite, right? And they employ all these dirty tricks. They try to hide color on color. They try to hide things behind pop-ups and alt tags behind images, anything they could to squeeze just a little bit more of SEO goodness out of it. And what happened was, at the same time, Google and the other search engines were like, hey, this is kind of cheating. So let's squash this. And we can actually do this algorithmically rather than manual checking. And that's exactly what they did. Right. And that's why we've seen so many people go radically up and down on their search engine ranking, simply because they would work with a team who would not adhere to those guidelines, who would not pay attention to what works and what doesn't. When you founded your company, what would you say was the founding ethos for for what you were trying to do, and how were you able to overcome that, in an increasingly competitive environment?
I think it's a really good point. So I I've been doing in 20 years a lot of things in SEO as well. Because SEO with those shady tricks, and then you had to build 500 backlinks if your competitor had 300 backlinks, etc. I didn't really like it too much up until a few years ago, where I then said, look, let's really go all in, because now Google and SEO is at a stage where I really start to like it. And I started to like it because it's finally on a stage where you can do legit marketing work, which is amazing for the user. The best quality very often wins. I'm not saying always, but very often the best quality content, user experience, and the entire picture essentially wins. And this is where I really went all in. We created SEO Leverage a few years ago. We created our software platform. We created our framework, just because we found a way that we can sustainably get people more and more conversions in an ethical way. And first and foremost, what was always important for me was 100% transparency. So a lot of people come to our agency and say, look, I have been paying those guys 5 years, this other agency. I have no idea what they were doing and why. They just asked me to pay my monthly retainer and maybe here and there send me a few keyword rankings as a report. This is definitely not enough. So when we started out with this, I think right now we have a software platform for this, but when we started out, I had a shared Google Docs, where I just copied and pasted screenshots and some explanations for my clients. And this is also how I essentially trained my team. It's always for me important that we know why we do something. I don't need everybody to know the how, because this is why we are here. But I need my client to understand why we want them to create 5 or 10 articles about a certain topic. I need them to understand why it's important to change the content design on the page. I need them to understand why the navigation is broken for the user. And I need them to understand why a certain user at a certain point needs a certain piece of information presented differently. So when we started out with SEO Leverage, we really wanted to make sure that we are, first of all, transparent, but also really take our clients by their hand and walk them through the process. And this is where we said, look, every couple of weeks, we're going to send you an update, a Loom video. We still do this today, and say, look, this is the situation. This is what's happening. These are the results you're getting. This is what we plan to do. And this is why. And this process has been working really, really well. This is why I then ended up publishing the book and creating the software around it, because it's just clients just stick with us for years. And this is really the way where I love SEO, and I love making SEO one of the pillars of my client's marketing strategy this way.
One of the biggest challenges for me for selling and maintaining SEO clients was sort of explaining to them the challenges, right? And now that we're in a World Cup season, this analogy is actually, very apt. Think about it, that you're playing a game of football or soccer, if you're in America, and the opposing team can change the rules on you at will, and you just have to go along with it, right? What was, relatively accepted, now it's not going to be accepted, right? And basically, to your point, you were always monitoring these trends, and you were being transparent to your clients. So, like, no one's being blindsided, not you, not them. And what happens is that you're creating a better partnership, not just saying, we messed up, or Google messed up, or someone else messed up. It's just, listen, the landscape changed. The landscape changes on a regular basis, and this is what we're doing to roll with those punches. How do you feel, working in an environment where your environment does change so radically from one quarter to another, and then and then you notice what was working for you 6 months ago, a year ago, simply is not working for you now, and now you need to completely pivot and maybe increase headcount or increase quality of quality of words written. I mean, there's so much that goes into this. How do you deal with that change?
So definitely the one only constant thing in entrepreneurship is change, as they say. So just really, first of all, embracing it. The second thing I would say, and we have been doing this for a while, a lot of things haven't changed. So we always hear about Google assessing things now differently. We have artificial intelligence. We can now use it to write content, but maybe we shouldn't. So there's a lot of insecurity in the market right now, where I think it's our job as SEO agencies to really also bring some clarity into this. The best way we have found when it comes to dealing with change is, first of all, having our own R&D. We only do our own SEO testing. We are in parts of masterminds, SEO masterminds, where other agencies and ourselves as well exchange test results. So test means that it's one thing that Google says something. It's another thing that you can actually prove it is that way, because it's not always the case, just as a side note. So we do our own R&D, and we have also the advantage as an agency that if you're consistently working on 30, 40 projects or more in different industries around the planet, there are certain things that just pop up as new trends. So you see, we do something, test something on one of our internal site, then apply it to a few clients and say, hey, this seems to be working. Let's apply it to another client, a similar methodology. And this is just a leverage you don't have if you're going solo with your own website, where you really need to rely on someone you trust who is also consistently testing. So part of our software platform, for example, one feature is called SEO Lab. And this is where we consistently just test certain things on a set of URLs. So if a blog has 500 articles, we might pick 10 and make a drastic change on those 10 articles and see what is Google doing now with them. Because what works on one site doesn't necessarily have to work on another website. You want to be careful about this, because different industries, different keywords trigger different things. But you want to always be testing. So this is one of the main mantras, so to speak, in our agency. We always want to be testing. We have our strategist always lining up experiments for our clients, where we say, look, why don't we try this one? And this is a little bit drastic, but we see there are indications this might be working, so it's worth a shot. And then you test this, you let this run for maybe 4 to 8 weeks. Check again, was this a good idea? Yes, this brought us 25% more in traffic. Let's do this on another set of URLs and see if we can prove this is actually definitely working before we roll this out site-wide. What agencies very often are going to do is they just apply a set of best practices to a website and then pray and hope that this has been a good idea. Where we really try to more focus on the conversions, which is ultimately what our clients want. They're not interested in traffic too much. Usually they want conversions. But then we really want to make sure that we test and really have hard data to prove that this was a good idea. Clients are going to ask, do you think this works? Can you think this works? Very often we honestly don't know. We have reference projects and our own tests where we say, look, I have seen this 3 times working out greatly and getting clients more conversions. This is why I ask you for 10, not your best, but your decently performing URLs, so we can make this change and prove what is the data suggests.
Very interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the tactics that you help your clients go for, right? So, if you go to the University of YouTube, there are a million, if not millions, of videos that will walk you through different aspects. Not all of them are great, right? And knowing which one to hang on to, which one to listen to and which one to ignore is really, really hard to figure out, right?
Mm-hmm.
In your experience, how do you help your clients use SEO in order to expand their email lists and to help them, create better courses and create better lead generation, just by manipulating the content and the rankings on search engines?
Absolutely, great point. So first of all, tracking is the most important thing. So we establish in the first call with a new client, we establish that the tracking is correct. So we track conversions with Google Analytics. We import them into our platform so we can track them as we want to manipulate them in our analysis. And then moving forward, conversions are an important part on making decisions what actually matters. And this really comes from the point where clients very often have teams or VAs, assistants working on their website, and they think that filling in the Yoast plugin or Rank Math plugin on WordPress is enough in order to have SEO taken care of. And then a few months down the road, we don't know why we are not getting results, right? First of all, many clients are not defining results. They just check maybe overall traffic that comes from search engines, but don't differentiate traffic that might be branded, where somebody's also already searching for your brand name, which is not an SEO achievement to rank for your own brand name, I would say, from non-branded searches, which is people searching for your service or products or the problems you solve without knowing who you are actually. And this is where really the big leverage point is. So first of all, we track. The second thing is that we identify what is actually happening. And then is where we see where are the quick wins, what is already performing halfway well. And to give you an example, if you have an article that's getting a lot of traffic already, we want to analyze it. Why is it getting traffic? What kind of mindset do users have when they come to this article? Would they be open to take the next logical step? And this next logical step very often can be, for online courses, for example, an opt-in to download something, get a free lesson, or things like those. But you really want to make sure you have a good understanding of what kind of user comes in and at which moment in their customer journey, because sometimes it's not realistic to expect too much. If somebody searches for the height of the Eiffel Tower, and a book you want to sell them is probably not what they're looking for. They just want the height, and ideally in meters or feet or whatever it is. But that's about it. They're not ready to take the next step. But somebody who wants to learn how to play the guitar, for example, coming to a site that offers like a free lesson on how to learn your first song, or how to learn the 3 most important chords. This is something that's really compelling, and this person is ready. So we want to match the content with where people come in with the right intent to actually a lead magnet. And once we have this done, we can then talk about or take the user experience on a website and say, okay, how does this user really go through this content? Do I really expect them to start at the beginning and finish at the bottom, which is probably not happening anymore? But am I really presenting this in a user-friendly way where people on a mobile phone, which is usually the vast majority of users these days, can actually consume this content well? And can they actually go through this without being overwhelmed by too much text? Do I have this in a visual format? Do I have some key takeaways? Can I navigate this article to really use it the way I want to use it at this stage? This is usually what then helps us with the lead generation.
That's really interesting. But I wanted to ask you something. How does some of the other traffic and lead generation techniques interact with this, though? Specifically, what I'm asking is, like how much would a paid Google or paid Facebook campaign interact with what you're trying to do, on the search engine optimization side, or even if you're creating videos on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, in order to help supplement and bring traffic over to the specific page that you're trying to cause people to take a specific action, put in their email address, download this ebook, hopefully sign up for their Tripwire offer. How do some of those other actions interact with what it is you're trying to do?
Well, I guess it really depends on obviously your goals. You need to see SEO as one of the pillars below your marketing strategy. I'm far off of saying SEO is the most important or the only pillar you should be focusing on. But certainly there is a lot of value in combining, for example, Google Ads with SEO. So for example, we bring people into a website with SEO and then have a remarketing campaign on Google Ads, where we then bring them to a landing page where they then can opt in. So we essentially get them first exposed to the brand organically when they're just in research mode, and then when they are ready to engage with one of our video ads or one of the banner ads, for example, we then get them to a landing page. If you think about Instagram and Reels, for example, which are getting a lot of feedback these days, a simple call to action to head over to our website and go to it, or find us in Google, type in XYZ in Google and come to our article, etc. You want to find a way to still leverage the search traffic, probably, to then bring in more people. It's all about identifying people at the right time. This doesn't have to be on Google. This can also be on social media platforms, like you say. But for us, Google is just a special moment where people are really ready to consume what you have. Whereas on social media with some advertising, etc., it might just not be the right moment.
It's really interesting that you bring that up. Right now, at least here in the United States, there are these commercials floating about called hashtag TikTok taught me, right? So they're actually, trying to convince people here that TikTok is actually a platform where you go to learn things. And I'm starting to hear more and more about it because YouTube, being the second largest search engine, right, also being owned by Google, actually does a very good job of helping educate people find the information visually that they are looking for. But YouTube content compared to TikTok content is usually like 10 to 20 times larger. TikTok content, they're teaching you a recipe in under a minute 30. Whereas if you try to see the same recipe in YouTube, they go into it and they're showing you every little thing and it ends up being a 10-minute ordeal, right? I think what happens is that, like when people are focused, like only on one and two of these, it's okay that one can dominate the other. that one can be, definitely bring a lot more attention to it. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down more to intention and what actually happens, right? It's like the example I use when people are walking through a large shopping mall. I will just stand in the middle of that mall and count how many people have bags, because that is the true mark of conversion, right? If you stand in front of an Apple store, you see people walking out with bags all the time, right? And then when you go see, well, we used to have the Microsoft stores, you don't see so much of that, right? And it was a very poignant indicator of what people need to understand is, this is the same thing with your website. Your website is your storefront, whether you're collecting money for it or not. You are collecting an exchange, an exchange of value. Let me ask you something. When you're talking with people about that and they keep on bringing up, like these other channels that maybe, you don't want to deal with, or that you don't want to you don't want to take ownership of, how do you handle those types of objections, to make sure that you stay in your wheelhouse, and that, maybe they have another expert, handling their TikTok, and you're able to stay, in your lane, but also support their efforts, and they support yours. How does that look in the world?
So what we very often do is we just, first of all, very often we getting in touch directly with the other people working on the project. So we might have a group call when we come on, just to shake hands essentially and see how can we best help each other. Because we can help each other. For example, if we research a piece of content and that converts well, this is a topic social media should also leverage and probably talk about, because it seems to be resonating at the right moment for people to then take action. At the same time, if there's something going viral on social media, I would really appreciate knowing about it so we can consider it as a potential topic or entry topic to then further research and say, okay, maybe we can write 20 articles at some point eventually about this topic, if this is such a hot topic right now and really also brings the results. This is really important. We don't want to just be led by views and view counts because the Instagram or TikTok algorithm thought this was a good idea. We want to really charge on outcomes. But as soon as there is an indicator, there must be a cross-pollination, or what I call it, like where the different platforms and the people representing those platforms really talk to each other. So very often we might be also running a Google Ads campaign. It's not like something we do all the time. But we do for existing SEO clients. If they ask us to do this, to only have one person for search marketing, we're happy to run the Google Ads campaign, so we have the data directly. But we also exchange just keyword lists and reports with other agencies working on Google Ads on their behalf, just to make sure that we all talk about the same thing. An example, I just had a client where we weren't exactly sure of 3 different keywords and key terms he wanted to rank for, which one was closer related to a potential conversion. So we asked the ads agency actually to run some ads for us in the name of the client. The client was involved here. And then we got conversion data, which was really interesting, because with ads, you can really figure out which keyword seems to be more resonating to potential conversion. Whereas in SEO, we are very URL focused. We can't break it down by the individual keyword people used.
Amazing, Gert. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Can you please tell everyone where they can find you online and what they need to do to reach out to you directly?
Absolutely, appreciate it. So the best would be to head over to seoleverage.com. We have a lot of material there. We have a small podcast ourselves there. And just book in a call if you feel you want to have a chat with me. Book in a call. We have gone on a Zoom call together, check out your website quickly, draft what could be an action plan that could make sense, and then see if there's anything we can help with.
Amazing. Gert, thank you so much for joining me. This has been
Thank you very much for having me.
I love it.
I appreciate it. Absolutely. You could do this for an hour.
All right. Thank you for being here.